TOEFL Speaking Task 3 is tricky. You only have 30 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak. If you're not prepared, this can become quite stressful. To score high on Task 3, you need to know what the task looks like and how to give a high-scoring answer. And this is what I'm going to show you in this video. We have a look at TOEFL Speaking Task 3, and I will tell you my top tips on how to score high. By the way, guys, if you're going to take your TOEFL soon, check out my TOEFL materials. There, I teach you everything you need to score high. I show you how to give high-scoring answers, and of course, we do many practice tests together, so you will feel confident for your test. You can find the link in the description box. And now, let's get started. Speaking Task 3 is an integrated task, which means you have to summarize information from several sources. This task is about things you might find in a university lecture. You start by reading a short academic article. It's about 100 words long and you have 45 seconds to read it. It's like reading a short passage from a textbook. Then you hear a lecture by one speaker. The lecture lasts 1 to 2 minutes. It's always on the same topic as the article. It will have 2 examples of the topic. Sometimes the format is slightly different and the lecture will include 2 solutions to a problem or 2 steps in a process, but there are always 2 pieces of supporting evidence related to the article. You then have 30 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to give your response. The question is basically the same format with only slight changes to the wording. It always states to summarize both the lecture and the article. An example of the question is, using the examples from the lecture, explain the concept of solar energy. Or describe how the example of the streetlight illustrates the concept of solar energy. If you know the format of Task 3, you really don't have to read it in great detail, since the task is always the same. The topics are always academic. However, they may be about a concept that you have never heard of. That's intentional. The TOEFL test is written to find out how well you can understand new information. Therefore, the title of the article is likely a totally new word or phrase. Write it down, since the title is the topic for the entire task. The task is fair because even though it's a new term, there is enough information in the article and the lecture to understand what it means. Often, the article gives the definition of the new term and the lecture gives 2 examples of it. Most common are topics about biology. In particular, the TOEFL uses a lot of animal questions for Task 3. You might also find questions about business and sales strategies. Psychology and education are less common, but you will still see one once in a while. Art, history, and literature are quite rare. Now, the challenge is to summarize the information from the article and the lecture in only 60 seconds. That's so little time. Guys, if you don't finish on time, that's bad. You must make sure your answer is complete. Otherwise, your score will go down like this. The key to getting a high score is to answer the question completely, include all important points, use a broad vocabulary and a good structure. You can achieve all that by using a template. If you don't know what a template is, let me explain. Templates give you sentence starters and the correct structure for your TOEFL speaking test. The sentence starters include a large vocabulary and correct grammar, which improves your score. Also, templates help you finish on time because you don't have to think about how to start your sentences, as the template is already in your head. Therefore, they make it so much easier to give high-scoring answers. To get all the templates you need, check out my TOEFL materials. The link is in the description. Next, to make sure that you give a well-structured answer that includes all important points, take notes. Write down the main word of the topic so you can remember it. Jot down enough words to remember the basic definition of the term. You don't have to spend a lot of time defining it, so you don't need huge numbers or notes from the reading. Instead, focus your notes on the lecture. You need to find 2 examples that clarify the definition. The lecture is structured with lots of linking words, so be sure to listen closely to those. For example, the speaker might say something like first, and you know that this is the first example. Listen for the changes to the next example too. It could be something like on the other hand, or moving on to a second example, or a different situation to illustrate that point is. In other words, the lecturer gives you clues when the points are changing, and you can use those to select which words are the most important to write down. The next point is extremely important. Many TOEFL test takers get this wrong, and then they get a lower score because of that. I'm talking about keywords and paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is using different words and grammatical structures when expressing the same idea. It's a really important way to show you have great language skills. However, some students try too hard to paraphrase every idea, and they end up creating a response that's not natural. It's okay to use the same word more than once, as long as your idea is clear. Use new words when you can, but not if you have to make long pauses to think of other ways to say the ideas. Even native speakers use less variety in their spoken English than in their written English. Meanwhile, I also want to mention that keyword you wrote down from the title. That's the word that the article is defining or explaining. Don't paraphrase it. Imagine you're explaining a class about camouflage to a friend, but you never use the word camouflage once. That's a bit weird, right? If you're defining the term, you need to explain what you are defining. If you don't use that keyword at all, you will actually lose points because your response is not clear. Therefore, use the keyword, but paraphrase other ideas from the passage if you can do so in a comfortable, natural way. By the way, guys, if you find this video helpful, hit the like button. Also, comment down below whether you want to have more videos about TOEFL speaking. Write yes if you want more. If you want me to talk about something else, tell me your video wish in the comments. I would love to know. Now, let's have a look at 2 more tips for TOEFL Speaking Task 3. When giving your answer for Task 3, use a casual tone. Don't worry about being too formal. If you do, your response will not sound natural. Instead, imagine you're describing the topic and examples to a friend. Think of this exercise as lecturing class. Imagine that a fellow student couldn't attend, so you're explaining what you learned in class. Don't try too hard to show off complex words and phrases. The point is to give the necessary information clearly. Your ideas need to flow smoothly together, so the TOEFL examiner knows what you're talking about. If you plan on speaking at a polite but casual level, you will be more relaxed when you approach this task. That confidence will really boost the quality of your response. My last tip is to get used to different accents. It's important to know that all the listening portions for the speaking task may include speakers that have accents. These accents are from countries where English is a native language, including the United States, Canada, Great Britain, New Zealand, and Australia. Even though the language is all English, some words are pronounced very differently depending on the region. It's especially important to know different accents for Task 3, since you listen to a long lecture by one person. If it's an accent you don't understand, you can't complete the task well. Therefore, be sure to take time to listen to podcasts, movies, or other sources that include native speakers from different countries. Fun programs are acceptable too. The point is to get used to hearing different voices, so you can focus on the topic rather than the accent. That's it! These are my top tips to boost your score on TOEFL Speaking Task 3. I hope you guys liked this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you're notified when the next video comes out. Also, share this video with your friends so they can improve their TOEFL score too. See you in the next video!